So, can you introduce yourself and just introduce the project that you worked on?
Okay, I'm Hannah Gray, and I'm a sophomore at Kalamazoo College, and this year I serve as the Civic Engagement Scholar for Farms to K, which is the sort of local food system advocacy group on campus. And last year I was a participant in that same group, and we basically came to the conclusion after a year of trying to figure out why our campus hadn't made a commitment to local food. I mean, there are so many reasons why we should in terms of social justice issues and environmental issues, that we decided, looking at other schools and modeling what they have done, that a big step to get the campus to change is to have a real policy commitment. And so we went through the spring mostly drafting a policy that we wanted the college to adopt that would say a couple different things. That would say basically that local sustainable food is important to us, and that we are making a commitment as a college to both purchase local food and to really start to look critically at the impact that food has on our campus. And so initially we wrote several different drafts, and we drew from different schools and sort of did comparisons of what different schools were doing in terms of what food service providers they had, how much money difference there was between switching between having a traditional Sodexo service provider or maybe doing a self-op. And in that process I did a lot of phone interviews with different dining service managers across to different schools, and that was all compiled into this policy. And so it made several different how would you say, sort of suggestions that the school adopt. And one would be first and foremost, that you have to set a baseline, that we have to figure out what's going on in the cafeteria, and in order to do that, we propose that they hire an employee, either part-time or full-time, depending on how much work there's initially, to basically do all of that inventory, to see what is going on in the cafeteria, and then to see what's going on in the community, to see how we could bring those two things together to have a more connected food system at K. And then in terms of local food goals, we decided that, I can't remember quite the numbers, but I believe it was something like 20% local food in the cafeteria, or 15%, and then that was like a baseline goal. So the first year that we had this policy implemented, we wanted by the end of that year to have that percentage. And then in I think we had 4-year increments, because we decided that was about the time that one student would be here at K and about the time that they would see the change. We wanted, I believe, a 5% increase, something like that, in local food in the cafeteria. We also, I think we defined local as about 100 miles radius from Kalamazoo, and so that was a really important piece. And we presented this policy to the administration at the end of the spring, and they said they would review it over the summer. And we got back to school in the fall, and they hadn't really reviewed it. They'd sort of looked at it and passed it around a few hands. And we had a really strategic meeting within the first couple of weeks of fall quarter, in which I sat down with the dean of students and the head of finance and a couple other staff members of sort of the student life division of campus, and we discussed the policy. But I think a difficulty we've had is about where people are in terms of looking at the policy, and what we mean when we say we want to discuss it and what they mean when they want to discuss it. And so this meeting, we went in wanting to hear, well, what's your feedback? Do you have questions about, specifically numbers? How does the president feel about this? Have you presented it to her? Where are your concerns? And some of those things were addressed, but for them it was very much, it was more sort of a meeting to say, yes, we've seen it and we're considering it. And so where the policy has gone since then, it's still sort of in the hands of the administration, and we have had some trouble getting follow-up on where it is right now. Sodexo, as a corporation, are still in place. However, they lost their general manager. He left before school started. Then their catering manager left the week of homecoming. So all of those events were sort of cobbled together. And then our chef was fired sometime around Christmas, which we didn't know until we came back to school. So in terms of that, the whole organizational scheme of dining services, they've gone through a big upheaval. And the school's of the opinion that regardless of the fact that the contract is coming up, those people in those positions are key in reviewing this policy and in deciding whether or not to implement it. And so we currently have a new GM in place who, from comparison to our old GM, is a lot more energetic, a lot more open to change and excited to learn from the students. She's been going around to student commission, to our Farms to K group meetings, to N-board meetings, really hearing what the students are doing and what they want to see done. And I guess in terms of the policy, the slightly frustrating part of that is that it is as if she is actually implementing what we suggest in the policy, but the administration hasn't formally adopted it and hasn't gotten back to us to say, here were our questions and we want to review it.
Great. Can you talk about any of what you're thinking after doing the strategic campaign planning? Are you newly inspired or have other thoughts about the policy after going through this process?
I think for the strategic campaign planning that we looked at today, I'm really happy that we went through that as a group, because I know those are things that I've thought about before. But as we said earlier today, there's a lot of communications issues at K and a lot of focus issues just because we do this rapid quarter system where things go so quickly. And so I think it'll be very helpful for both Farms to K and just the campus community as a whole to really sit down and do that visioning, do that strategic planning as a group, and pull people from different organizations. Because often what happens at K is that all these small organizations sort of vie for people. We're a small student body, and so people end up really committing themselves to different organizations and not seeing those intersectionalities between our causes.
Great. What is your dream food service at Kalamazoo? What do you want to see before you graduate, or when you graduate?
Okay, so I graduate in 2 years, and my dream would be to have a self-op for the campus to really realize that in order to have those relationships that we want, in order to support the social justice issues and the climate issues that we have really committed to, in our formal paper writing, that there really is no other option, that we have to take it upon ourselves to make sure that we fulfill those responsibilities to our students and to our community at large.
Great, thank you.